But they were on products. They were on individual product categories rather than on countries. You just don't, what Trump has done is he's declared a war, a trade war with China now. And it's damn near impossible to win a trade war, particularly when the country that you're trying to have the trade war with, controls so much of what you need in your country. I was talking about rare earth minerals earlier, that China has now put export controls on. But on top of that, pretty much everything in a Walmart. So I just think that, we're in for a rough time. There was another thing that you mentioned, though, that I wanted to go off on. But I don't recall specifically what it was. What was your last point there, Eli?
It's an attempt to bolster domestic manufacturing capabilities, to support a war machine.
No, I think it's more than. I don't think it's to support a war machine. I think that's just good old-fashioned populism. So anyhow, Eli, I think we're about out of time here, and so say that again. 6 seconds. Okay, Eli, thanks a lot for the call. Yeah, here we go. Thanks a lot for being with us today too. And special thanks to Louise Hartman, Sean Taylor, Nate Atwell, Jamie Holly, Nigel Peacock, Sue Nethercutt, Patrick Hoyt, Geraldine Halbert, Ron Hartenbaum, Chase Spross, Nicholas Miller, Pat Sweeney, Jay LeBlanc, Jeremy Peterson, Conor Arroyo, Carna Verity, Martha Salinas, Mateo Robertson, Diane Russell, and Ruben Michaels, all the great folks who work on our program and volunteer over in our chat rooms on YouTube and everything else. Thank you so much, and thank you for letting your...
Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
From now on, we'll ensure that our nation's critically needed coal plants will remain online and fully operational. They're always going to be operational.
Donald Trump signs slew of executive orders to bail out the declining, polluting coal industry.
The government's rushing to help displaced families while battling a humanitarian disaster.
Torrential rains and flooding cripple Congo's capital city. Plus, big banks quietly planning ways to maximize profits amid climate chaos.
Of course they are. All of those stories and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics analysis, and snarky comment.
I call it beautiful, clean coal. I told my people never use the word coal unless you put beautiful, clean before it. Right, Doc?
Right, Doc? Always lie before you use the word coal. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, trigger warning for our listeners. I know we're covering quite a bit of Donald Trump today,
yes.
So you may want to hide any children or hide yourself before we get there. What do you got for us today?
Well, first, as parts of the U.S. were hit with historic flooding over the last few weeks, so was Kinshasa, the capital of the Democratic Republic of Congo, which was also inundated by torrential rains and floods that destroyed homes, killing dozens of people and displacing thousands. Officials say the death toll is expected to rise. Contaminated floodwaters have also triggered a drinking water crisis after swamping the city's water system. Recently, the Congolese president warned that the climate crisis is making flooding worse. Scientists say many African countries are seeing more frequent, deadly floods and droughts due to human-caused climate change. Here in the U.S., a new study from nonprofit data firm Climate Central projects that if countries meet their emissions reduction targets in the Paris Agreement, flooding in coastal areas of the United States is still baked in and will still occur 10 times more often over the next 25 years.
So why even bother to meet the targets?
Well, E&E News has an answer for that. They report that the big banks that finance the fossil fuel projects that contribute to climate change are quietly predicting that the world will blow past the temperature targets in the Paris Agreement. Yet, rather than end their role in financing fossil fuel projects, the big banks are working on how to continue operating profitably even as damages soar, according to their own documents.
Of course.
A recent Morgan Stanley research paper predicted global warming will be great for air conditioning stocks.
Oh, man.
In Washington, Donald Trump this week signed a slew of executive orders utilizing federal emergency powers to boost the declining coal industry, the most polluting and carbon-intensive source of electricity in the world.
We'll streamline permitting. We will end the government bias against coal, and we're going to unlock the sweeping authorities of Defense Production Act, the Defense Production Act, to turbocharge coal mining in America.
In an unprecedented intervention, Trump directed federal agencies to lift restrictions on coal mining, fast-track coal leases on the public's lands, and exempt coal plants from certain pollution rules reining in their toxic emissions of mercury, arsenic, and benzene.
You got a problem with mercury, arsenic, and benzene?
Another order requires federal agencies to promote coal and rescind policies that don't favor coal production. A third gives Energy Secretary Chris Wright unilateral power to intervene in power markets and force uneconomical coal-fired power plants to continue running indefinitely, no matter the financial, health, or climate costs.
In other words, pick winners and losers so long as the winner is coal.
Trump also ordered the Justice Department to sue Democratic-controlled states that restrict coal plant pollution and emissions that cause dangerous man-made climate change.
If you won't pollute, we're suing.
At the same time, the Trump administration is dismantling measures that protect coal miners, cutting local mine safety offices and health care funding, even as deadly black lung disease is on the rise. Energy experts say any boost for U.S. coal is likely to be temporary. Since 2006, the utility industry has steadily moved away from coal. Studies show that it costs more to keep existing coal plants open than it would to replace them with new, cheaper, cleaner natural gas, solar, wind, and battery plants. It's an extraordinary government intervention for a single industry that today employs fewer people in the United States than Arby's, but it will certainly make the U.S. more polluted.
Well, if it's a good idea and it's cheaper, Donald Trump is not interested. For much more on all of these stories and the ones we couldn't get to today, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Find, follow, and share us planet-wide on the social medias, especially Blue Sky at Green News Report. We're going to be off until after the Easter holiday. Hope you have a safe and happy one. Until then, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
Please help Progressive.
Mary had a little lamb. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Keep the faith. This is going to be a disaster.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
The Supreme Court will require the Trump administration to facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. That's the Maryland man who was sent to El Salvador by mistake, despite having protected legal status, preventing his deportation to El Salvador, where he escaped political violence back in 2011. Abrego Garcia was sent last month to that country's notorious mega prison, following what the government said was an administrative error. Our Devin Dwyer joins us now with more on all of this. Devin, what is the Supreme Court exactly ordering the Trump administration to do to remedy this?
Phil, this was a unanimous decision by the Supreme Court upholding a lower court order that it facilitate the return of Mr. Garcia. As you said, he was wrongly sent to El Salvador, to that prison that we've heard so much about with a history of human rights abuses. He was detained in this country. He is an alleged gang member. He denies those affiliations. Those facts aren't in dispute. But an immigration court here in the United States had explicitly said he was not to be returned to El Salvador for fears of threats to his life. That, of course, has now happened, and the Supreme Court, in no uncertain terms, Phil, said that action was illegal on the part of the Trump administration, and that while it shows deference to the administration in its ability and timing to bring him back, it does need to be done in compliance with due process of law, Phil, and that's a very significant development tonight.
You talk about law, Devin. I'm wondering if there's any chance of more legal back and forth on this issue, or will this effectively start the process of bringing Abrego Garcia home?
Well, we'll have to see how the Trump administration responds. They had said they didn't have the power to return him. The Supreme Court apparently wasn't having any of that. They said that the district court order was proper, that this can be done. They expect the government to comply and correct its mistakes. So we'll see if there's further litigation here. We do know his family, his attorneys have said they expect him to come back to the United States. Remember, he is not going to be just let loose in the United States. This is someone that was under a withholding order. But again, this was about righting a wrong, a legal wrong, a moral wrong, and standing up for due process of law. And tonight, Phil, the Supreme Court unanimously did just that.
Unanimously, everybody, unanimously, like alls of them have said, wasn't this the dude that was under a order of protection by a previous judge who said, whatever you do, don't send him back to El Salvador because El Salvador will kill him. He has like a legit claim of asylum, and he's under a protective order by a judge in the United States withholding him from deportation. And Donald Trump and his idiots make mistakes all the time, and they deport him to the exact prison where the MS-13 threat that he was fleeing from is uber present, because that's who's in the Central American Dictators Terrorism Center. Holy crap. So guess what? Today there was a hearing back at the district court where the judge has just been resoundingly, acknowledged as being correct and right in her decision to get him back because he was under an order of protection from our country. Okay, not to deport him there. And so this went all the way up to the Supreme Court. They fast-tracked it. Hey, it's me, Donald. Do this for me. Do this for me. Hear this case. Do it now. And just say that we don't give a damn about this piece of trash. We don't care about this Salvadorian dude, okay? Even if he does look exactly like Kyle Rittenhouse. He ain't no Kyle Rittenhouse. He's not American. And he obviously didn't shoot anybody and hasn't killed anybody. And we don't like that about him. So deport him. Gone. Make a mistake. Well, last night, the Supreme Court said, get him back. Cut the crap already. Stop deporting people without due process. If you would just follow the damn law, we could get off your freaking case. Literally. That's the message from the Supreme Court. It was the message about, you could deport anybody you want to, Mr. President, which is frightening. But they do have to have due process. This was the previous ruling, right? They have to have a chance to deny that they are here illegally, or to make their case for asylum, or to ask for protection orders, barring them from being deported back to a country where they will obviously be harmed, hurt, killed, threatened, murdered, or jailed, right, for no good reason. And so each and every one of these people you put on a plane, they didn't have due process. Now, we don't care if it's like a pit stop in Texas, but you got to give them a minute in court. I mean, it could be, for all we care, you could have like mass trials. We haven't ruled on that now, have we? No, we just said there's got to be some sort of a process that is due them, because if not, you're violating writs of habeas corpus. You're violating the Constitution that requires due process and writs of habeas corpus, meaning bring the body, show us who you want jailed, and tell us why, and let them respond to those charges. I mean, it's so unbelievable. So I'm reading this 2-page thing. Actually, when I printed it out, it was 4, but it's just a 2-pager, right? It lays out his case, and it says exactly what I just said to you. It says that in March, he was removed. He wasn't removed. He was kidnapped, okay? He was literally kidnapped from America and disappeared into a terrorist correction center run by a Central American dictator named Bukele, who Donald Trump invited here and will be here on Monday. Now, if Bukele is slippery and slimy and cagey and all this stuff, and he's like he will actually bring this guy with him, okay? I'm guessing that's kind of what needs to happen. But you never know with dictators. She just, they're very whimsical. They're very whimsical, and they think lots of cruelty is very funny and fun. So I don't know, but I'm just saying it's a possibility that he could come and bring this guy, because today there was a hearing back in the district court, okay? And in Judge, as I'm going to say her name is Zinnis, because it's an X-I, Chinnis. I mean, if it's like Oaxaca, then she's Winnis. I don't know. I've not heard anybody pronounce her name, so I don't know how to say it. But anyway, Drew Ensign, the guy that was representing the United States in front of Judge Boasberg, he was there today representing the Department of Justice yet again, and Kristi Noem, the person, the deporter in chief, I guess, the one with the great hair extensions and the lips that you want to lick and stick her to the wall, the blow up doll girl, the one that likes to pose with guns aimed at your face, and the one that likes to wear tactical gear. I don't know what her little fetish is, but that's what she does. Anyway, so today this guy showed up to the court with the lawyer for Kilmar Abrigo Garcia after the Supreme Court was clear, like crystal, bring him back. Go get him. And there was a hearing in her court today, and she wanted to know what steps has the government taken to retrieve him, to go get him. And I swear to you, this is what happened in the court. I'm reading like Anna Bauer, who writes for Lawfare. She actually was listening to the court case, and she was making the transcript and posting it on Blue Sky, which is how I know what happened there. It's the only way to know what happened there. Nobody is covering what happened there. But anyway, the hearing started, and she explained why everybody was there. And she said the Supreme Court ruled and directed the court to clarify its order, effectuating the return of Garcia. And we want to know what steps you took to get him back. The lawyer for the United States literally said, I don't have that information. They haven't told me. They haven't told him. He doesn't know what steps, or if any steps were taken to bring him back now that the Supreme Court has ruled. Bring him back.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
They plucked this man off the street. They deported him in violation of a court's order. They acknowledged they did it in error. They refused to lift a finger to bring him back. They taunted the judge, essentially, saying, it's your court order, let's see you enforce it. It was a mocking tone by the administration. They never offered to try to remedy their mistake. Now they're being told by the Supreme Court that they're going to have to remedy this. Will they pick up the phone, as we know the president could do, and call the president of El Salvador, with whom he is very close, and say, hey, we made a mistake, send this guy back? They're going to obviously be most concerned with what they're always concerned with, which is saving face. So that doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence, but if they ignore this instruction by the Supreme Court and the fault by the district court, then we are really in that uncharted territory we feared, where they're simply flouting even a court order.
By the Supreme Court, no less. Okay, and that is where we are. That was last night. That was Adam Schiff telling you what the Supreme Court found, what the administration admitted to. The administration's lawyer that represented this case prior actually admitted that there was an administrative error that was made, that this person had done nothing, had no criminal record at all, wasn't a criminal in El Salvador, wasn't a criminal in the United States. He was a law-abiding guy. He'd been here 10 years. whatever, and that they had made a mistake. And the Supreme Court said, not only did you make a mistake, but this guy actually went to the court when he got here, when he was, at first admitted with a claim of asylum, which is not illegal, okay, and was able to show a court that if you sent him back to El Salvador, he would be killed. And so the court put him under a protective order, meaning you cannot deport him to El Salvador, and yet they did by accident. And instead of trying to fix it, instead of trying to remedy it, instead of picking up the phone and calling his wonderful new dictator friend, Mr. Nayib Bukele, who rounded everybody up in El Salvador and put him in a prison. I mean, they had no due process, and I really couldn't care less. It's not America. Can't worry about what happens over there in El Salvador, down there. But Donald Trump could say, all right, you know what? This guy, he did nothing wrong, and we like him. He looks just like, Kyle Rittenhouse, and we miss that face. Send him back. But he hasn't done it. Instead, they showed up in court today, the lawyers for us, for the people, for the United States, showed up today and said, I don't know where he is. And when the judge said, what steps have you taken to find out where he is? He said, I don't know. I don't have that information. She's like, are you freaking kidding me? And I bet you this is what happened. Because you and I and anybody who's the slightest bit, I don't want to say sophisticated, but the slightest bit, interested in law and what a lawyer can and can't do. We've learned the hard way what lawyers can and can't do. And one of the things we learned through Rudy Giuliani's experience was you can't lie to the court. Okay? As a lawyer, you cannot go and lie to the court. You can lie to the jury. You can lie to, anybody you want. You can lie to other lawyers, but you can't lie to the court in a proceeding. And so rather than this guy being forced to lie, okay, and say we didn't do anything to get him back and we're not going to, which is the case, I promise you they shielded him and said, Pam Bondi and Christina, they probably sat there and said, don't tell him what we're doing. Don't tell him we're not doing anything. Just leave him without any information. Let him go to the court without any information. This way he could plead ignorance. And he can't lie because he has no information. And the judge was not having it. He said he would write it, he would put it in a briefing. And she goes, and what did you put in your briefing that is before me today? He said, the only thing I could tell you that's in my briefing, I want to tell you today is that we don't know what the word effectuate means in this context. We know what facilitate means, but we don't know what effectuate means. And so we're asking you for clarification on the term. She's like, you don't know what it means? You admitted that you made an administrative error. You admitted that this guy was under a previous court protective order and you deported him anyway. You admitted that you have absolutely no inclination or no desire to rectify your error. And now you're asking me, what does effectuate mean? She's like, contrary to what you put in your briefing, there is no need for a further briefing. Now I just need to know, where is he? Where is Kilmar Abrigo Garcia? Where is he? Because this lawyer should know where he is. You know what the lawyer said? I can't answer that. He said, we've said what we can say. She's like, I'm sorry? You don't know? What information do you have? He said, well, I do not have that information. He doesn't know where he is. That's fascinating because the government of the United States put this guy on a plane to El Salvador, where he was seen on a videotape that Bukele made, a propaganda tape, showing him having his head shaved in shackles. So I think everyone knows where he is. But this lawyer is like, I don't have that info. We've said what we can say. What a way to not lie. You know what I mean? Like, it's so lawyered. She said, so the government is going on record saying that there's no information on his whereabouts. She said, this is quite basic information. I'm asking a very simple question. Where is he? Where is he? Filing an hour ago a briefing asking me to, define words for you. And you're saying you hadn't thought about answering this question? Like, where is he? You're saying you don't know? You can't answer this? She said, I'm not asking even next steps, although the Supreme Court actually ruled that the lawyers for the United States have to lay out everything they did to get him back and what the next steps are if all the things that they did to get him back have not worked. And he says he can't even tell the court where he is or what anything that was done to get him back, and certainly not next steps if they did anything to get him back and it failed. He just stood there and said, I don't have that info. I don't have the information. I can't. And so he said plaintiffs have said that he was last known to be in El Salvador, but there's no submitted evidence, and there's no submitted evidence to contradict that he's in El Salvador. And she said, so you're saying that there's no evidence where he is today? That's extremely troubling. And then she said, so let me just move on to the next question. Did you do anything to get him released? Anything at all? He said, I'm unable to answer. I have no knowledge of that. She's like, that's a yes or no. Did you do anything? I'm not asking you even what you did. Just, did you do anything? He said, I can't answer that. Oh, my God.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right. It's Friday, everybody. Our phone number is 561-270-3844. Give us a call. Jim in Michigan. Yes. May I help you? He's not there. Jim in Michigan? No. Nobody's there.
He was just there, and he was fired up and ready.
I
with
thought
some
I heard
fake
somebody
news,
breathing,
man. He might. Look.
What did he want?
He started the call by saying the problem at the border, relating the border to what you're talking about, even though they were unrelated, is that Biden let in 12 million immigrants, and they were all wearing Joe Biden T-shirts. And Kamala, and he kept saying Kamala no matter how many times I corrected him, and Kamala went down there and laughed and let them in. That was his topic.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no, I don't know where they get that number. I guess it's a Fox News thing. And I guess if Fox News told them to drink Kool-Aid in Guyana, they would do it. I guess if Trump told him to jump off a bridge, he would do it. Listen, so it's not 12 million. We had an app called CBP One. It was an app where you could apply for asylum in another country and then come to the United States and have an asylum claim made on your behalf. And for the Cuban, Haitian, Nicaraguan, and Venezuelan, I'm actually looking at the actual numbers here from the government. There were 531,600 people that were let in from Haiti and Venezuela because there were national debacles in their country. Like Haiti had earthquakes and cholera and floods and riots, and then somebody assassinated their freaking president. Jovenel, and there was no government there, and it was just run by gangs in Haiti, and so people came and they applied for temporary protected status, and 531,000 people from Cuba, Haiti, Venezuela, where obviously Maduro, anyway, they're here under temporary protected status. Now, as far as the CBP One entrants, the people who asked for asylum claims to be heard on that app from the U.S.-Mexico border. That's a large number. That is a big number. That's 5,844,700 people. But they actually went through the process. There was a process. I don't think it included a Joe Biden T-shirt. But, if it did, yay. Free T-shirt. Who says no to a free T-shirt? Certainly not Jim in Michigan. Okay.
Yeah, he wouldn't let it go. He hit me with 12 million, and I was like, really?
They all do.
Is that
you
what
know,
the
it was
Fox
so
News numbers
interesting.
up to?
Remember when I was online voting, and the guy behind me was a Border Patrol agent who had become a Palm Beach County sheriff? And the guy in front of me was a guy who saw somebody's electric vehicle and said, well, I'm voting for Trump because I will never drive one of those. And I said, well, I haven't filled my car up in like 6 weeks, but you do you. Remember that conversation? So the Border Patrol agent behind me started laughing, and he started participating in our conversation. When the guy came with the 12 million number, he goes, oh, that's just, I've heard that. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. He goes, that is just not real. So anyway, there's that. But, you know, we're not talking about Joe Biden, and we're not talking about the app, and we're not talking about temporary protected status, and we're not talking about claims of asylum, except for this one guy who had a claim of asylum heard. And it turns out he met the standard for a claim of asylum to be granted to him by our courts. And they issued a protective order protecting that individual, this man, Kilmar, from being deported to El Salvador. And the administration admits they made a mistake. They picked him up. They deported him. Now, this is how America is such a great country. This is how it had been a great country, because it was a good country. And what was the goodness in that? The goodness in that is that we would rather let, I don't know, 10 criminals go than jail one person wrongly. That's why we have due process, and Bukele does not. Okay, that's why he feels free to round up the usual suspects and just put them in a detention center for the rest of their lives with no due process. This is what separates us from that. And here you have an administration admitting that they screwed up, saying we did this by accident, and still not returning him. And that goes against everything that America is about. And that also means that idiot boy Jim in Michigan can be picked up at any time if the president disagrees with him. And this is the second case that got heard today. Now, there was no technology allowed in this particular courtroom, so we don't know what happened to this particular case. But this is the case of Mahmoud Khalil. Mahmoud Khalil is somebody I would disagree with every day of my life, okay? Just no question that we would not see eye to eye on the one issue that got him looked at, let's say. And that's all that should have happened. If anybody wanted to look, they could look. But to arrest him, to deport him, to jail him, to hold him, based on what? Is he a criminal? No, he's not a criminal. He's a guy who went to Columbia University, Ivy League school in New York, and graduated with a doctorate. Okay, I think got a doctorate or a master's. I don't know. I'm not a college graduate. I know one takes longer than the other. I think master's comes first, then doctorate. I don't know. Anyway, he went all the way and graduated. He's out of school now. His wife is pregnant. She's 8 months pregnant. She's due any minute, actually. And he got picked up. He got picked up by our government and sent to a prison, private prison, run by a Boca group called Geo Group out of Boca Raton, right down the road from me over here, a private prison in Louisiana. And he's in there. What's his crime? Well, the court asked for evidence of any criminal activity, any crime that he committed at all. Why is he incarcerated in a private prison, no less? Why are you holding him? Marco Rubio said that he was using his authority as Secretary of State to declare that Mahmoud Khalil isn't down with American values, and that he has every right as Secretary of State to pick him up and put him in jail because he represents a threat to American values. Now, let me tell you that the one time that particular idea was ever used to pick somebody up, meaning that the Secretary of State declare that this person is here and counters American values, the one time that was actually done, it went to court. And the judge said that is an unconstitutional thing. You cannot do that based on someone's beliefs that you feel are not, 100% red, white, and blue and American. We don't do that here either. We have freedom of thought, freedom of speech, okay? You know who the judge was that ruled that that was an unconstitutional use of the Secretary of State's power? It was a woman named Marianne Trump. You know who she is? Rest her soul. She's Donald Trump's deceased judge sister. She was the judge in that case, and she ruled the Secretary of State does not have the right to do that. It violates the Constitution.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
I really didn't realize until I saw Justice Sotomayor laying it out in her supplementary finding to the Chief Justice's ruling today, that what they're arguing is that they can do this to any one of us.
So, a lot of times people accuse the media of hyperbole. Yeah. There is no hyperbole here. It is everything that you said, and it's actually more, because in the case of Mr. Garcia, he actually had a court ruling that he could stay here. That had been adjudicated. And so this was in violation of that court order. So, yes, it's absolutely true that the position is that if you put the two cases together, the government was arguing they could snatch anyone in this country, remove them without due process. And even if it's a mistake, this is the callousness, even where it's a conceded mistake, that person can rot in jail as a result of the United States making a mistake, and they would have no obligation to lift a finger. So this is both, as we now know from the Supreme Court in 2 unanimous losses for the Trump administration, that is not the law of this country. That these people are, and anyone is entitled to due process, to a hearing. And in this case, if you make the mistake, you have to facilitate, of course, what any decent human being would automatically think to themselves, which is, how do you rectify it?
Right.
That I can't get over that this is beyond just the law point, which is what kind of human being sits in their office, realizes a mistake happened, and remember, Mr. Garcia is still in jail in El Salvador because of our mistake, and the Department of Justice's position is we're not lifting a finger unless the court actually requires us to. That is what is so remarkable when you think about what it means to be an American in this country.
Yes, it is remarkable that anybody could be picked up and spirited away to a gulag in a third country, okay, that is, governed by a 46-year-old dictator in Central America. Anybody can be picked, and so there are haters in this audience that just want Donald Trump to keep his promise to deport all these criminals. He ran out of criminals, Donald Trump did, after the first plane load left. There are no more illegal criminals in this country, and that's why he's picking up people who protested at Columbia because they disagree with his beliefs about Palestine versus Israel. They disagree with his beliefs. When Marco Rubio invoked that law that Donald Trump's sister, a federal judge, Marianne Trump, ruled was unconstitutional. It's just so ironic that Marco doesn't know that, Donald Trump's own sister was a judge who ruled that what Marco is asserting is now a power he has as Secretary of State, has been already adjudicated, has been already ruled to be an unconstitutional interpretation of the Secretary of State's power to deport somebody because you disagree with their beliefs. And then today, in a court hearing regarding Mahmoud Khalil, who was picked up because they say he's dangerous because he organized a protest against the Israeli war that was being waged in Gaza as a result of Hamas killing 1,250 people on October 7th in the morning in a terrorist attack, and then taking 250 hostages. He didn't want to talk about that part of it. He just wanted to protest against the response, which he thought was, war crimes and whatever. And like I said, we would have to sit and talk this one through, me and him. But that's not a crime. That's not a crime. Is it a thought crime? Is it a crime of his belief system? What are we, a theocracy now? I mean, obviously, Marco Rubio has to know that his submission to the court today, I swear to God, he said that the reason why Khalil was put in jail has nothing to do with criminal behavior. There was no crime that he ever committed in his life. There was no crime he committed at Columbia. There is no crime he committed when he lived in Syria. He's a Syrian student here on a student visa. And that's another thing. The thing that the United States is, providing the world that makes us, so valuable to the world, that makes us a destination for a lot of the world, that makes us, not just the shining city on the hill for the world where there is due process and there is freedom of belief and there is freedom of expression and there is free speech and there is freedom of assembly and there is freedom to question the government and, a redress of grievances and there is due process, right? And all of these things. Besides for that, set that all aside. The thing that makes people come here is our services. We have gold standard services. And by services, what the hell do we mean when we say that? Oh, not just financial services, which the whole world employs us for, but also higher education. It's a very big service. It's huge. And we attract the best and the brightest from all over the world, like Mahmoud Khalil, to come and try your hand at getting into an Ivy League school. And if you do, you get to stay and you get a student visa and you get to pursue your academic dream. We have those services here. And now we want to mistreat every brainiac around the world who would come here and educate themselves here and would want to stay and work here. And we would benefit from that. I mean, this is just ridiculous. So what did Marco Rubio put in the brief to the court today? He said there was no crime. There is no crime. He committed no crime. We jailed him for his beliefs. Bingo, baby. We're here. This is where we are. I want everybody to understand that you are now not free. You're not free. You actually live in a country where somebody can be picked up and wrongfully deported to a dictator's third world concentration camp, or picked up and sent to a private prison run by a group out of Boca Raton, Florida, in Louisiana, okay, so that they can make money off of you, and you will be said to have committed a sin of belief. Your crime is you didn't believe what this government wants you to believe about a war. That's it. It's that simple. Do you understand how un-American that is? Do you understand how ugly a thing that is? And that they said it in court today? And that it's really on? And that this is their position and they're sticking to it? And that Marco Rubio and Kristi Noem and the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, are literally making lists of people that they disagree with and going after them with the full force of the American government. Who could withstand that kind of assault? No one I know. No one I know. And that's where we are. And so you got, in one case, the case of, Mr. Garcia, maybe you don't care about him. I can't make you care. But what I can do is show you that he did nothing wrong. And the government, your government, admitted to an error, a mistake, violated a court order, and doesn't care. That's a constitutional crisis. And then in the other case, you have somebody here on a student visa who just graduated from a Ivy League school and was about to contribute mightily to our, betterment. Was having a baby here. And they can't cite any crime he committed either, but they said they don't like his belief system. Now, what's interesting about that is it's putting me in danger. Why me? Well, not just because I disagree with everything that Donald Trump would stand for or want to have happen to this country, but because they said that the belief that he is so grievously needing to be jailed for is anti-Semitic. He's not anti-Semitic. And you know what? If we start jailing people for believing in anti-Semitic things, guess what's going to happen to Semites? That's right, targets on all of us. This is dangerous. This is a bad road.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Keep the faith. This is going to be a disaster.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
The trade war between the world's two biggest economies heating up. China slapping a new tariff on the United States, raising the tax on American goods to 125%. With China one of the main importers of U.S. goods, that move is likely to affect American farmers and companies. And China's President Xi Jinping is now responding to President Trump for the first time. Saying that China does not fear economic suppression, but adding there are no winners in a tariff war. It comes after the White House clarified it had raised tariffs on China to 145%.
And I think that we'll end up working out something that's very good for both countries.
The U.S. tariff policies for the rest of the world remain uncertain. The president keeping a 10% baseline tax in place, even as he paused higher tariffs on dozens of trading partners. President Trump saying he's punishing countries who he insists treat the U.S. unfairly in trade. But experts warn many of those costs will be passed on to American consumers. According to a new estimate, all the tariffs could end up costing American households an extra $4,700 in purchasing power. The president acknowledging there will be short-term economic pain.
There'll be a transition cost. Transition problems, but in the end, it's going to be a beautiful thing.
Amazon CEO telling CNBC's Andrew Ross Sorkin it will likely lead to higher prices.
I think we'll have to see how it all plays out. But if you made me guess, I'm guessing that sellers will pass that cost on.
This morning, Wall Street is set to wrap up one of the most volatile weeks in the stock market's history. The Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ all plunging again on Thursday, erasing part of the historic recovery just 24 hours earlier. The president downplaying the sell-off.
We're very, very happy with the way the country's running.
China says its new 125% tariff is set to go into effect on American goods tomorrow. And the market's euphoria, Willie, earlier this week that the president might be backing away from this trade war certainly appears to have been premature. J.P. Morgan Chase making clear that it is not changing its prediction that the U.S. will plunge into a recession as a result of President Trump's policies, blaming what it calls the largest tax hike since World War II.
Oh, good God. I honestly, this is insanity. This is just crazy because nobody can win a trade war. And everybody go, oh well, he took the tariffs off of this one and that one, and it's just about China. That's bullcrap. That's bullcrap. Everybody now has a 10% tax when they come into the United States. Every country that you could possibly imagine. I was talking about, like Hugo Boss and Lululemon. They're made in Cambodia, okay? They're made in, wonderful Cambodian factories each and every freaking day. Do we really want to go back to a textile-based econ? Do people really want to sit in, by a Singer sewing machine all day with thimbles on their hands and work for $7, $7.25 an hour making baby clothes? Really? Because honestly, if that's the direction that this country is headed in, a mercantile economy instead of, like the Ivy League, that's the envy of the world, where people come here to be trained in high science and high math and to be trained in, all kinds of engineering skills and coding and all these, really, really seriously high-tech, good-paying jobs, which is why people come here. And instead we offer sit behind a sewing machine we'll still be paying $3,400 for an iPhone in that scenario. Somebody did this. This is so good. This is so freaking good. Okay, so yesterday I played you the AI video that China made, this one, depicting us. Oh my God. Okay. Somebody fixed it. A guy on the social media, he fixed it. Look. Tim Scott's making braziers. Politics, that's his name. Politics, he fixed it for me. Thank you.
So that guy's got Trump losing a few pounds.
No. I mean, it's just so, it's so apropos, he saw what China was doing, and he just, fixed it. So that it actually makes sense to me now. I honestly do not want to trade the economy that we had. Do you remember, everybody remember when we were in the last administration and the economists, all of the trained ones around the globe, had a little look-see after COVID of who put their economies back together the fastest and the best? And it turned out that Joe Biden and America did. That we were, quote, the envy of the world. Remember that? That the United States economy was the envy of the world. And we started investing in ourselves, and we started building factories. Good ones, semiconductor ones, chip factories, car factories, all of this stuff. Guess what happened? Guess. All of that reversed. Nobody will invest in the United States. No one wants to come here. No one wants to put their hard-earned cash into building any damn thing now because they don't know what Donald Trump is going to do next. So it's true, everybody. If you hire a bunch of clowns, expect a circus. We truly did hire a bunch of clowns. And this is the circus. Except this one's so expensive. Do you know how much it costs to go to this circus, to be at this circus, to attend, to be present for this circus? I'll let Fox News give you the good news or the bad news about what it's going to cost you to survive Donald Trump's tariffed economy.
He's also trying to market this as the fact that he paused the tariffs, and he absolutely did not. He canceled the reciprocal tariffs, but we are still, as Dana said, tariffing the entire globe 10%, even the people that we have good relationships with, like Australia. And there was questioning of Jameson Greer, our trade representative, earlier this week about why we're possibly doing that, and he had absolutely no answer for it. The Yale Budget Lab just came out with new figures based on yesterday's tariff numbers that says that this will cost each American household $4,400. This is the highest tariff rate since 1909.
Who came up with that?
The Yale Budget Lab.
Oh, not the Yale Budget Lab.
Oh, I'm sorry that I didn't pull it out of a cartoon or something wherever you got your
We'll see
point.
it tomorrow everywhere else.
No.
The Yale
fine.
Budget Lab.
Why are you making fun of smart people that calculate things?
They are such losers over there. They just want to poorly lead the poor people in this country down a poor road to get even poorer. So the cost for a 10% tariff on everything around the globe. You know what's really interesting is Australia. Do you know what their tariff rate against us is? 0. Do you know what Vietnam offered? 0. You know what Israel's tariff rate against us is? 0. I mean, this makes no sense. The only country that got out from under Donald Trump's, tariff. Guess what? Guess what country? Guess. Anybody? Guess. That's right, Russia. They're the only ones. They're the only ones. And guess what Russia did today? They released a ballerina. An American ballerina. They released her today because Donald Trump didn't tariff Putin. So he said, okay, that's worth something. Here's your ballerina back. And she came home today. But I mean, honest to God, $4,400 a year. You know what that is like for every house? It's about another $300, $400 a month. A month. That's what it's going to cost you to survive Donald Trump's poorly thought out 10% tariff. For every country in the world, even the ones who have a 0 tariff against us.
On TV.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Where we are in the markets is a much worse place than where we started. For all the ups and the downs and whatever, the market is well below where it was before the president decided to embark on this craziness. The dollar is much weaker. Our Treasury yields have gone up significantly, which raises the cost of borrowing for the government and exacerbates the deficit problem that you well know we already had. So nothing good has happened out of all this, and a lot of bad stuff has happened out of all this. I have no idea where the president is going. Nobody does. He probably, honestly, has no idea where he's going on this. The tariff barriers or the tariffs, the so-called tariffs that all these other countries have, most of them are actually quite low. The issue is what we call non-tariff barriers, where the countries let our goods in on an equal footing with their own goods, or they come up with phony kind of restrictions about what kind of apples can come in the country or wheat or this or that. So it's a complicated situation. You'll remember in the first term, he went to tariff war against Canada and Mexico, ultimately negotiated the USMCA, which I don't think changed a heck of a lot, and backed off. And so that may be what happens here with most of the countries. We have to come back to China. But with most of the countries, that may be a way he walks back in off this ledge he's put himself on. This is a total unforced error. This is the worst economic policy making I've seen in 50 years of hanging around economic policy. My border colleague could do a better job of managing this economy than this administration has done so far. What you're hearing from the Treasury Secretary, from others, is honestly just kind of gobbledygook. It makes no sense. Nobody would have said that this is the road we should go down. And where we go from here, who knows? As I said, my guess is he finds a way to crawl in off the ledge with most of these countries. The question is China. Those tariffs, as you pointed out, are massive now. China is one of our 3 biggest trading partners. You're not going to be able to buy that new iPhone at any reasonable cost very shortly if all this sort of stuff stays in effect. And let me make one last point, Joe. I just came back from 4 days in Europe. I was in London. I was in Germany. I was in Sweden. And it was a trip really not planned around the tariffs. It was planned a long time ago around whether the Europeans were actually getting their defense together and were going to start spending money on defense, another subject that we could talk about. But obviously this all came up everywhere. The loss of confidence in America is extraordinary. They do not view us as a not a reliable ally, not even a predictable ally. And they are really scared. They are going to try to get their act together. Europe is a complicated place. But Trump has done incredible damage to the American brand in all these countries, total loss of confidence in what was always thought of as great American leadership on the world stage.
Say, that's going to be good for investment, isn't it? That's going to be good. Good God, man. You know how many people work at like Mercedes-Benz in South Carolina? Do you have any idea? Like entire towns are built around a BMW plant. Do you know, this is so ridiculous. What he's doing is so antithetical to us, to our ability to do things more cheaply. I mean, didn't the maggots vote to make the price of eggs go down? Or didn't they vote because they wanted a better economy? Now, you know, the Biden economy was the envy of the world. We had the best recovery from COVID and broken supply chains that any other country in the world experienced. Only America came out faster and more ahead than before COVID because we had smart leadership, because we had good advice, because we had a good Treasury Secretary, because we had Janet Yellen, because we had people who understood what benefits America and actually did those things. And so we recovered more quickly, more strongly than any other country in the world. And now you got a guy who came in and is just trashing our economy, literally trashing it, making things more expensive, not less expensive, making confusion and chaos. And you know what all right, those are the facts. This is my opinion based on those facts. Now you could take my opinion or you could not take my opinion. Really, that part of it is negotiable. Okay, but the facts are not. The facts are what I just used economists and numbers to show you. Okay? We had an economy that was the envy of the world. What Donald Trump has done is cost you at least $4,400 a year more to live and broke a trust that America was a predictable and honorable ally, that America was a place you could do business. America had law. America had order. America had consistency. America had a educated workforce that was only getting smarter with the student visas and, you know, allowing the smartest people in the world to come here and participate. I mean, if you look at Silicon Valley, none of these people are American, you know, like none of them. But anyway, okay, so here's my opinion. I believe that what's going on here is a creation of a mafia state. What? Yeah, I know. People that don't pay attention think this is an outrageous thing to say. People who do pay attention go, oh my God, that is it. That is it. So it isn't about trade deficits because we showed you a million times. We're going to do it again, okay? So a trade deficit, is it a bad thing? No, it's not a bad thing, okay? So I have a trade deficit with Brett. Why? Because Brett comes to work every single day and does a service that I think is valuable to me. So I pay him to do the service for me. But Brett doesn't buy anything from me. So he has a trade deficit with me, okay? I trade with him every week and everybody walks away happy with the trade. But he doesn't buy anything from me. So I could sit here and say, well, I have a trade deficit with you, Brett, because you don't buy anything from me. And Brett will go, what would I buy from you? I can't afford your house. Can't afford your car. I mean, right? So a trade deficit is not a bad thing. It happens every single day. If you go to the barber, okay, same thing. The barber does a service, you pay the barber. Do you buy anything? Does the barber buy anything from you? No. So the barber actually has a trade deficit with you, but he's glad that you traded because it enriched both of you. Everybody walked away happy. So this is a made-up issue, the whole trade deficit thing. That said, Donald Trump wants to get paid, and he wants tribute. He wants tariffs. He wants VIG. He's grifting, you see? And Donald Trump will not make things cheaper or better or faster or more efficient for you until Donald Trump gets paid. This is a tribute economy. And the person and that's why for anybody that saw Donald Trump post on Truth Social when the market was about to explode, because he was going to suspend the tariffs for 90 days. Well, before he did it, he put on Truth Social, this is a great time to buy DJT, which is his Truth Social media company, which is where the assessment that he's worth $1 billion comes from. It comes from Truth Social shares. You know, that stock went up 21%.
Speak with Randi. Dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Oh, everybody, 2 segments to beer. Yay. All right. Rhonda in Erie, what a lovely gift on a Friday.
How you doing?
Good, you?
Girl, I'm tired. I'm
I
exhausted. Yes, I am.
Yeah.
And yesterday, I spent the vast majority of the day really wishing I was stupid and mean, because those people seem to not be having a hard time at all.
You're
and
right.
then,
You're right.
But then I turned on your show, and I felt better.
Oh, that's really sweet.
I did. I did.
Oh, that means so much to
better.
me. But you're right. You're right. I mean, I look at the girls at the hair salon, which, you know, I mean, as a woman, we go there. And that's where we talk about, you know, difficult things, relationships, government, you know, that kind of thing. They are all Trumpers except for Angie, my girl, right? My best friend, Angie. And they are so happy. They're just so happy. They think
they really are.
You know what they think, Rhonda? They think this is what they say to me, and I just cringe. I just cringe. They say Donald Trump has put $6 trillion in the Treasury for us. What?
Well, let me tell you, if he did do that, then he took it from my retirement account and my Social Security, because I don't know where else he could have gotten it. I mean, it's been astounding to me, but, you know, really, honestly, I've been so busy trying to build systems within our own community that I dip my head in to make sure that I know what's going on. But, like, I'm really busy trying to do the work of providing some sort of protections, whatever protections we can build against, you know, the coming onslaught. Because people think it's bad now; it's going to get worse. But I have been so heartened by a lot of the folks that I've been coming in contact with. Like you know, I was listening to you yesterday, and you were talking about talking to these women, and you know, maybe not all of it got through to them, but I know that some of it did. And then you talked about Brett getting married.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was just reminded that even in the roughest times, there are such wonderful spots of light.
There are.
You know?
There's moments of happiness, and that's kind of all you can expect out of life anymore. Is just, you know, like a moment here and a moment there of happiness. You know, I'll tell you, you know, Howard's daughter, she's pregnant, and she, you know, she's waited a really long time because her theory was, how do I bring a kid into this world? And we all talked her through it, and we all said, look, people had babies during the bubonic plague, for God's sake. People had babies during World War II, okay? So she finally, and now she's filled with a new joy, you know what I mean? Like a new, and so yes, life goes on. However, this man has destabilized the entire freaking world. And some people think that that's governing. No, that's not governing. That's being a Bond villain.
And it's people rooting for the Bond villain.
Yes, they are.
I mean, the level of people, well, the number of people that I have come across who think that this is okay and that it'll all work out in the end are the very same people for whom this system was built and has up to this point been working. Yeah. They've never seen this system collapse on them too.
Yeah,
and it's about to.
Yeah.
And then when it does, they're going to come running back to us because they're going to be the victims. And I got to tell you, I don't have it in my heart to be like, come on back in, because what we're seeing, what's being shown to us, are people who are willing to support really heinous things, torture happening to people. The what you were talking about with the man who was sent to the Salvadoran prison, right? Not being able to not doing anything about that. I do not understand that level of cruelty. I mean, I have a lot of people on my list that I don't like, but I don't wish this kind of stuff on them. And these people do.
And you know what? So, the idea that it's so personal with them, that they wish this on a human being, rather than say, I live in a country where I'd rather see 10 guilty people go free than one innocent person jailed wrongly, which is what makes America the greatest place in the world, and that they're willing to give that up for hatred, right? They're willing. That is a sad state of affairs for them, not for me.
It is
for them.
It is.
Yes. And so,
but
if they don't realize that, what I realize is that when the check doesn't come, and I'm talking about not just the Social Security check, but the SNAP benefit, the EBT card doesn't get filled up, and that's coming. That's coming because it's in that budget that they are, going after these things. So when that doesn't happen, and the food bank doesn't have food because he killed the farmers program to grow food for the food bank, doesn't want to, give them the money to supply the food bank. When all that hits the fan, they're going to start voting for Democrats, okay? And that's fine. Just don't talk to me. Do you know what I mean?
Right. That part. Yeah. Just don't talk to me.
Just don't talk to me.
But in the meantime, we have to be building these systems, find your people and create systems so you can support one another and, keep on doing the things that we as decent human beings ought to be doing.
Yeah.
Loving one another, supporting one another, getting married, having babies, just doing the best that we can to keep moving forward. And so I want to thank you for yesterday because that was really happy. And I want to tell Brett congratulations. But it really did help me yesterday because I was just. You're very welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited. And like you said, no matter what's going on, good things are still happening. And no matter what happens in this country, now I have somebody to be there with me through it. And that means a lot. And I appreciate your congratulations very much.
She's really a wonderful person.
You're very, very welcome.
Yeah, he did well. I mean, better, he married up, man. I don't know how that happened.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. She's incredible.
I outkicked the coverage, man. I really did well.
He did.
No doubt.
And I'm glad you know it.
Yeah, he knows it. Thank you, honey. I appreciate you. Have a good weekend. Happy Passover. I know that you don't celebrate, but it is Passover, and I will celebrate. So.
And so you will, yeah. And so same to you. I hope y'all get some rest.
Thank you. You too. You too. Take it slow.
All right.
Okay. Love you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Good things are still happening to good people. Good things are still happening.
So how do you explain what's happening with me?
Well, I was just going to say, good things are still happening to bad people.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, it's just, the world keeps going. It just keeps going. Will it get more expensive for the bad people? You are not one of them. But will it get more expensive for the bad? Yes, it will. It will get more expensive for each and every household. And I'm telling you, the last time that America decided that Republicans were bad for the economy, like during the Great Depression and the Smoot-Hawley tariff thing, which is repeating itself now, except these are even higher than the Smoot-Hawleys. You know what happened? People voted for Democrats, House, Senate, for about 40 years. And those were the best 40 years that America has seen lately.
Clear for takeoff. This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Oh, how about one more economist? Okay.
This supposed retreat is 10% on everybody and more than 130% on China. So what we're actually, in this supposed pause, we actually have tariffs that are beyond what anybody imagined was going to happen. In fact, because of the increase in the tariffs on China, it's not clear that this is less protectionist, that this is less of a burden on consumers than what he had before the sudden change in policy. So this is really, people talk about the infamous Smoot-Hawley tariff.
Yes.
This pause is a tariff rate that is higher overall than Smoot-Hawley.
Wow.
This is a bigger shock to the economy than any trade policy in any country's history, as far as I can figure out. So this is a really big and really destructive deal.
So the pause that left the 10% tariff in place against all countries, even ones that have zero tariffs against us, and the escalation of the tariffs in the tariff war with China, our third largest trading partner, plus the 25% tariffs that he's got on like Canadian things and some Mexican, is all bigger than Smoot-Hawley, which threw us into anybody? The Great Depression. That's right. And why? Because Donald Trump wants tribute. Donald Trump wants people to pay him. He wants people to buy him things, gift him, and buy his stupid DJT stock. And that is what he was able to accomplish last week when he willy-nilly, like without any thought, targeted tariffs, as we all know, can work. They can be effective if they're well planned, well thought out, and well executed to prevent dumping of things like steel in this country by countries like Japan. Okay? That could work. You know what Donald Trump is doing now? Donald Trump wants the Japanese to buy U.S. steel. Oh my God. And, like the whole idea of, now is a really good time to buy DJT. And then that was at like 9:30 in the morning. And then at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, he announces he's pausing the tariffs after people have had 3 hours to go buy his stock. The value of DJT, which is a dog of a stock, actually increased by 21%. And I would just love to see who the buyers of it were. I would love to know that. But, we will not ever know. But this is all about replacing a system in which we trade with other nations for our betterment. Maybe they get better too. I mean, trade should be mutually satisfying. Trade should be you go and you do a job for somebody. Let's say you're an AC repairman, okay? You go to their house and you fix their AC and you give them a bill and it's got parts and labor. The labor is your part of the benefit, right? And they pay you. Are you going to buy something from them? No. So there's a trade deficit there. That's not a bad thing. That's what trade is. He wants to replace that system with a system of tribute, a system of grift, a system of pay to play, payola if you want to, but it's a mafia state. It's I don't even want to call it oligarchy because that sounds like oligarchy sounds like whenever you have an archy or an ism, it sounds almost like that's okay. It's not okay. Oligarchy is bad. It is not okay. This is a system. There's a mafia system. This is a system of gifts, tribute, vig. Okay? This is Putin's way. This is how Putin runs Russia. You can do business there, but only if you grease him. Only if he gets a part. Only if he gets his piece. And he can turn on you at any time, and he could stick you in jail and make an example of you if you don't pay him. Look up Kordakowski and go see what happened to him, okay? But this is, he wants an offer of, because countries want, you know what? He says, the whole world is, they all want to make a deal. Everybody wants to make a deal. Nobody wants to make a deal with you because your word means nothing. Zero, zip, goose egg, donut, squat. You're a liar. Everyone understands this now. No one believes you except for the MAGA freaks in this country who, I don't know, they're too lazy or too scared to think outside of your lies. I guess it just frightens them. I don't know. I've given up trying to explain why they follow him down this rabbit hole over and over and over. Farmers, especially. My God, they got totally whacked in the last Trump administration, like so hard. But he paid them. He paid them. This time he's not paying them. And we have the most expensive soybeans on the planet now because it's soybeans in a marketplace that farmers have made, built for themselves, done for themselves, being taken away from them. And if they can get to that marketplace, it's now 145% more that has to be paid by the Chinese government in order to accept your soybeans grown in America. That makes them the most expensive soybeans on the freaking planet. You see what I mean? So people want exemptions. That's what they want. They want waivers. They want and we've talked about this before this all happened. And I said to you, when he was first running with tariffs, I go, don't you understand what the grift is here? The grift here is people will come and they will grease him. They will pay him. They will gift him. They will cut him in, and of course the vehicle for doing that is buying his stock, right? Because foreign governments can buy his stock. Foreign, players can buy his stock. No one knows who's buying DJT. All we know is he gave a fair warning, buy the stock, and he said DJT. He said it. And the stock went up 21% on the worst day that the stock market ever had in modern history. Okay? I mean, it's just like amazing. It's an amazing thing. But the countries are coming to him. And they want things. They want waivers. They want exemptions. That's what they want. And he's like totally open for business. But I need a gift. I need my tribute. It's so mafia. It's right in front of your face. I mean, and that's what you're going to end up paying it. Seriously. What kind of a place is this now? People are being abducted. They're being kidnapped. They're being, spirited away. Haven't done any crime. The government openly admits that the two people we were talking about today who just disappeared, were picked up, kidnapped, taken, had no criminal records. None. Not in their home country, not in this country, not anywhere. Not anywhere. Who cares? We want to do it to you, we'll do it to you. Only the people who could pay are going to be, somewhat safe. But, even the people who can pay, like I said, check out, Khodorkovsky, check out what Putin does to oligarchs that don't pay, or oligarchs that, mouth off to him, or oligarchs whose girlfriends he wants, or whatever it is, doesn't really matter. He just puts them in jail. That's what he does. He puts them in jail. And he tells the other billionaire oligarchs, this is you. This is what will happen to you. See that guy? He had everything. He had everything. He had private planes. He had houses in the Ural Mountains. He had a whole floor at the top of a penthouse building in Moscow. He had it all. He had women all across this planet. He had a yacht. He had a house in Thailand. Swadika. And he's in jail now. Why? Because I want him there. That's why. No head shall be higher than mine. It's just the way it is in a mafia state. And that's where we're going. That's where we're headed. So, everybody's probably saying, well, what can we do? What can we do? So, look, the only thing lawfully that can be done is that we actually have some sort of a election in 2026. Not that it's really going to stop him from doing half of what he's doing, because we were talking about this before the show. Donald Trump isn't really going to Congress for all that much, but the tax cuts he needs to go to Congress for, and those tax cuts are also going to be put on your tab. Right now, it looks like the cost of them is about $5.8 trillion unpaid for dollars. And that's going to be put on your account. And so that portion of it, we could probably turn around with an election. But this disappearing people, his crooked DOJ, his Pam Bondi was such a cheap, you know what I want to say. But For the low bargain basement price of $25,000 as a tribute to her in her re-election campaign in Florida to be the Attorney General of Florida, she gave up prosecuting Donald Trump for the Trump University fraud. She was part of a class action, okay, because people in Florida had attended. 25 grand, cheap.